and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. A quote commonly attributed to Friedrich Nietzsche. Though historians debate whether he wrote those exact words, the idea perfectly captures his philosophy. Because history has always treated visionaries like lunatics, right before calling them geniuses. The artist who refuses conformity. The entrepreneur mocked before success. The dreamer was laughed at by practical people. The person heals while others stay numb. The one choosing authenticity in a world addicted to approval. From the outside they look irrational. But maybe they're just moving to music nobody else can hear yet. In this video we'll look into the terrifying cost of individuality. Why society fears people who think differently. And why the greatest danger in life is not looking insane, but becoming invisible. Human beings are tribal creatures. For most of history, survival depended on fitting in. If the tribe rejected you, you died. And even though we now live in modern cities with smartphones and Wi-Fi that mysteriously dies exactly when you need it most, our brains still operate on ancient survival software. That's why people fear standing out. Not because they lack ideas, not because they lack dreams, but because judgment feels dangerous. And society rewards sameness. Think about school. Children are often taught what to think before they're taught how to think. Sit still. Raise your hand. Memorize. Repeat. Don't disrupt the system. Then adulthood arrives, and suddenly the world says, be unique. But after decades of conditioning, uniqueness feels terrifying. Because the moment you move differently, people notice. And people judge what they do not understand. Vincent van Gogh sold almost nothing during his lifetime. Nikola Tesla died broke. Galileo Galilei was condemned for telling the truth. At first, every new idea sounds ridiculous. Until it becomes obvious. That's the strange cycle of humanity. First they laugh. Then they resist. Then they repeat what you said as if they believed it all along. And Nietzsche understood this deeply. He believed most people live trapped inside herd mentality. Not because they're evil, but because comfort is seductive. It feels safer to follow the crowd than to question the direction of the crowd. Even if the crowd is miserable. So what is the music? The music is purpose. The music is intuition. The music is conviction so deep that logic alone cannot explain it. It's the internal signal that tells someone, this is who I am. Even when the world disagrees. Some people hear music in art. Some hear it in business. Some hear it in spirituality. Some hear it in love. Others hear it in freedom. And once someone hears that music, they can't unhear it. That's why certain people willingly sacrifice comfort for meaning. To outsiders it looks irrational. Why quit a stable job to pursue a dream? Why leave relationships that look perfect on paper? Why move across the country? Why spend years building something uncertain? Why create when nobody is watching? Because the music is louder than the fear. And people who cannot hear it often mistake passion for madness. That's the tragedy. Most criticism comes from people evaluating your life using values that aren't yours. A person obsessed with security will never understand someone obsessed with purpose. A person addicted to approval will never understand authenticity. A person terrified of risk will never understand vision. That's why you cannot build your identity around public opinion. Because public opinion changes every 5 minutes. Literally. One viral tweet and suddenly everyone becomes a philosopher. The crowd is unstable. And Nietzsche warned about this. He believed modern society encourages mediocrity by punishing exceptional individuality. Not always openly. Sometimes subtly. Through ridicule. Through exclusion. Through labels. Too emotional. Too intense. Too ambitious. Too weird. Too much. But often, too much simply means too alive for people who settled. Every transformation looks strange in the middle of it. Think about dancing. Without music, dancing looks absurd. Random movement. Chaos. Flailing limbs. But once you hear the rhythm, everything makes sense. Life works the same way. When people cannot hear your internal rhythm, your decisions appear chaotic. But there's something deeper happening here. Most people don't actually fear failure. They fear social rejection. They fear being misunderstood. Because misunderstanding hurts. Especially when it comes from family, friends, coworkers, people you love. Sometimes the hardest part of growth is realizing The people around you may only support the version of you that keeps them comfortable. The moment you evolve, the relationship changes. Not everyone wants you to become powerful. Some people only liked you when you were uncertain, predictable, small. And when you start dancing to your own music, you unintentionally force others to confront the silence in their own lives. That's uncomfortable, because authenticity is contagious. A truly free person reminds everyone else of the prison they tolerate. And that's why society often attacks individuality before admiring it. History repeats this endlessly. The visionary appears. The crowd mocks them. Time passes. Then statues get built. Humanity has an incredible talent for worshipping people it would have bullied in real time. But there's another side to this quote. A darker side. What happens when you stop dancing? What happens when you silence yourself long enough to fit in? Many people slowly abandon themselves. Not dramatically, quietly. They stop speaking honestly. Stop creating. Stop dreaming. Stop risking. Stop expressing. Until eventually, they become socially acceptable strangers to themselves. That's the real insanity. Not dancing without approval, but living without aliveness. Nietzsche believed vitality mattered deeply. To him, a meaningful life required courage. Not certainty. Courage. Because certainty is impossible. No one fully knows what they're doing. Some people are just brave enough to move anyway. And maybe that's what separates extraordinary lives from ordinary ones. Not intelligence, not talent, but willingness to endure misunderstanding. To survive the awkward phase where your future makes no sense to anyone else, including you. That phase is brutal. Because before success becomes visible, it looks delusional. Before confidence appears, it looks arrogant. Before mastery appears, it looks obsessive. Before transformation appears, it looks lonely. But every meaningful path contains a season where nobody understands you, including yourself. The people who change the world are rarely the people who perfectly fit into it. They are the ones willing to hear something deeper. A calling, a vision, a rhythm, and they follow it despite resistance, despite embarrassment, despite doubt, maybe especially despite doubt. Because courage is not the absence of fear. It's movement despite fear. And maybe that's the real meaning behind the quote. Not superiority. Not rebellion for the sake of rebellion. But trust. Trusting your inner music enough to continue dancing. Even while misunderstood. Even while judged. Even while alone. Because one day, the world may finally hear what you heard all along. And if they never do, dance anyway. The crowd will always call unusual people crazy, until reality catches up. So the question is not, will people understand you? The real question is, will you betray yourself just to be understood?